Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial for how to make this crochet granny stitch bucket hat. This is a super easy, beginner-friendly project. It's great for using up scrap yarn and is of course super customizable in terms of the color palette. This tutorial will also include instructions for how to add the optional ties to your hat. I like to have them on my hats in case it's windy out, but I also just like having the option to hang it around my neck when I'm in situations where I'll want to be taking it on and off. We'll be using US crochet terms in this tutorial, and here I've listed all the stitches and abbreviations you'll need to know. So we have chain, chain space, magic circle, slip stitch, single crochet, double crochet, stitch or stitches, and round. If you're not familiar with those techniques or terms, then go ahead and brush up quickly on those and then come join me back here. For this project, you'll need about 50 grams of DK weight yarn. I'm using mandala yarn from Lion Brand in the color Centaur today, but you can really use any yarn you like. You'll need a 5mm crochet hook, or whatever hook you need to match our gauge, a tapestry needle to weave in the ends, scissors, and optionally a measuring tape. The head circumference of this hat is about 22 inches or 56 centimeters around. The brim circumference is about 30 inches or 72.5 centimeters around. The total length is about 8 5/8 of an inch or 22 centimeters long, and the brim length is about 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters long. This hat is a bit stretchy as well, so it should fit most adults. And our gauge is for a 4-inch or 10 centimeter square, we should have 14 stitches by 8 rows in double crochet. The last thing I wanted to mention before we get started is that I have a free written pattern for this bucket hat available on my website. So if you'd prefer to follow that, or you'd just like to pull it up to supplement this video, then you can find the link in the description. So with that, let's get started. If you aren't using the mandala yarn like I am, then you can go ahead and skip to this timestamp to get started with the tutorial. But if you are using the mandala yarn, then we need to prep our yarn first before we can get started crocheting. To get the color pattern that we want for this bucket hat, we need to separate all the colors in this cake from one another. So go ahead and find the yarn tail. You can grab it from the middle or from the outside. I always find it easier to go from the outside, but that's just me. And we're gonna start separating all the colors, rolling them up into their own little balls. So we have all of the colors available to us when we go ahead and start making our bucket hat. So I already have a color change coming up here, and as you can see, it does sort of fade into the next color, but that's really okay. You can just pick a random spot and cut it. And then we'll start rolling up the next color. So just go ahead and continue doing this for the entire cake. It is a little bit of a pain, but I think it's worth it in the end for the really cute color combination that we're gonna get. I finished separating all the colors, and this is what we're left with. We have blue, pink, a dusty purple pink color, taupe, dark purple, golden yellow, cream, lilac, dusty yellow, red, and dusty rose. So the thing with the mandala yarn is each cake isn't going to have the same amount of each color from one cake to the next. Really, that only matters for our main color, which is color F. Every other color that we're using we don't need a lot of, but we do need a decent amount for color F. About 19 grams if you're making the ties, and about 16 grams if you aren't making the ties. So my options today for color F are between the blue, dusty purple pink, golden yellow, cream, dusty yellow, and red. I have the most of all of those colors, and they all seem to have enough for my main color, but that's all that matters when you're picking your colors. You need the most of color F, and all the rest you just need a small amount of yarn. So I've gone ahead and arranged these colors in the order that we're going to be using them, but we're not going to be using these 3. We only need 8 colors and we have 11 here, so I'm just going to set these 3 aside. So this is the color palette that I've chosen. This is color A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. So to start with round 1, we're going to take our color A yarn and we're going to make a magic circle. If you don't know how to make a magic circle, I'll show you right now. You're going to take this yarn tail here and you're going to hold it between your thumb and your forefinger. And you're going to wrap it around your 2 fingers, making a little X. and then take your crochet hook, put it under this little loop you just made, and then bring the yarn through. Then we're going to chain 3. That will secure our magic circle, and throughout this pattern the chain 3 will count as our first double crochet stitch. We're going to double crochet 1 into the magic circle, and then chain 1. Then we're going to double crochet 2 into the magic circle, and chain 1. And we're just going to repeat that until we have 6 pairs of 2 double crochets in our magic circle. So we have our 6 pairs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can go ahead and tighten our magic circle, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 we made at the beginning of the round. After you've slip stitched into the beginning of the round, chain 1 to fasten off. You don't have to fasten off if you don't want to when you're doing your color changes like this, but I just find it a lot easier. I don't mind weaving in my ends, and I don't really like to have so many balls of yarn attached to my project at one time, but that's all personal preference. If you would like to keep your yarn attached and just carry it down when you're changing back to that color, that is totally up to you. You can definitely do that, but that is not what I'm going to be doing. You should have a total of 12 stitches now, and the chain ones do not count as a stitch. Okay, moving on to round 2, we are going to insert our hook into any chain space, it doesn't matter which, and we're going to take our color B yarn and chain 3. Then we're going to double crochet 1 into the same chain space and chain 1. And now we're going to double crochet 2 into the same chain space and chain 1. Then we'll move on to the next chain space and we'll double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around our project. Alright, so we've made it back around, so now we just need to slip stitch into the top of our chain 3 that we made at the beginning of the round and fasten off. And you should have 24 stitches now. Alright, for round 3, we're going to insert our hook into any chain space again, and we're going to take our color C yarn and chain 3. Then double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and then chain 1. Then we're going to move into the next chain space and double crochet 3, and chain 1. And we're just going to repeat that in every chain space in this round. Okay, we made it back to the beginning of the round, and just like we've been doing, we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round, and fasten off. And you should now have 36 stitches. This is a great time to measure your project so far to make sure that your gauge is correct. So my project after round 3 is about 3 3/8 of an inch across. So if your project is pretty far off from that, then you're going to want to go ahead and switch your hook or switch your tension, whatever you need to get your project to a similar size as mine right now. Luckily, we're still at the very beginning of this project, so it won't be too difficult to change that. That's why it's really good to just measure it right now, just to make sure that you are pretty close to that measurement. Now for round 4, again, you know the drill. we're going to insert our hook into any chain space, and we're going to grab our color D yarn and chain 3. Now we're going to double crochet 2 into the same chain space and chain 1. Moving on to the next chain space, we're going to double crochet 2, chain 1, and then double crochet 2 in the same chain space. And then chain 1. In the next chain space, double crochet 3, chain 1, and we're just going to repeat that all the way around our project. So next chain space, double crochet 2, then chain 1, and double crochet 2 in the same chain space, and chain 1. Next chain space, double crochet 3, chain 1, and just repeat that all the way around your project. Okay, so we made it back around our project. We should have ended on a double crochet 2, chain 1. So now we will slip stitch into the beginning of the round and fasten off. And we should have a total of 42 stitches. For round 5, insert your hook into any random chain space, grab your color E yarn, and chain 3. Double crochet 2 into that same chain space, and chain 1. Now we're just going to double crochet 3 into the next chain space, chain 1, and just repeat that in every single chain space around until we get back to the beginning of the round. We made it back all the way around our project, so we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round and fasten off. You should now have 54 stitches. For round 6, insert your hook into any chain space and take your color F yarn and chain 3. Now we're just going to double crochet 2 into the same chain space and chain 1. Now we're going to double crochet 3 and chain 1 in the next 4 chain spaces. So next chain space, double crochet 3, chain 1, next chain space, double crochet 3, and just repeat that until you have 5 double crochet 3, chain 1 groups. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these double crochet 3, chain 1 groups so far in this round. Now in the next chain space, we're going to double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. And we're just going to repeat that whole pattern all the way around our project. So in the next 5 chain spaces, we're going to double crochet 3 and chain 1. So here's where we put that double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2, chain 1, and we needed to put 3 double crochets and a chain 1 in the next 5 chain spaces. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now in the next chain space, double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 in the same chain space. I'm about to run out of yarn. And chain 1. Now I need to tighten my yarn a little bit since I had to go ahead and add a bit more. Alright, so then we're going to double crochet 3, chain 1 in the next 5 chain spaces. Alright, we've just double crocheted 3 and chained 1 in the last 5 chain spaces. So now in our final chain space of this round, we're going to double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 in the same chain space, chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round, and fasten off, and you should have 57 stitches. Okay, round 7, insert your hook into any chain space, grab your color G yarn, and chain 3. Now double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. Now we're just going to double crochet 3, chain 1 in every single chain space of this round. We made it back around our project, so we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round, and fasten off, and you should have 63 stitches in your project now. I don't know if y'all caught that, but I actually accidentally skipped one of the chain spaces in this last row, so I had one fewer double crochet 3 little sections than I was supposed to. So I went back and fixed it, don't worry, but I just wanted to point that out. You know, we all make mistakes and that's all right. I caught it and I fixed it, so it's no big deal. So now for round 8 through 14, we will just be doing the exact same thing that we were doing for round 7, but we're going to continue changing colors at the start of every round. So we can go through round 8, but then I'll just leave y'all to continue until round 14 on your own. So for round 8, we're going to insert our hook into any chain space, grab color A, chain 3, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. Now in the next chain space and every other chain space of the round, we're just going to double crochet 3 and chain 1. Okay, so we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round, and fasten off. Like I said earlier, from round 8, which we just finished, all the way until round 14, we're going to be following those same instructions that we just went through, but we'll be changing colors at the start of every round. We just did color A for round 8, so for round 9, we'll use color B, round 10, color C, and then just continue that pattern until you finish round 14. So I'll come meet back up with y'all at the end of round 14, where you should have just ended with color G. So we just finished round 14, and we should have ended on our color G yarn. So now we'll move on to round 15, which is the same stitch pattern that we've been doing for the last few rounds, but we're going to switch to our color F yarn. So go ahead and insert your hook into any chain space, grab your color F yarn, and then chain 3. Double crochet 2 into the same chain space, chain 1, double crochet 3 into the next chain space, chain 1, and just repeat that all the way around your project. Remember, we're doing the exact same stitch pattern we've been doing for the last few rounds. Once you get back to the beginning of the round, you can slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, but don't fasten off. We'll be continuing with color F for a few more rounds. Okay, so I just finished round 15 and I did not fasten off because we're going to continue with color F. Since we're not switching colors, we can't just insert our hook into any random chain space, you know. So what we're going to do is just slip stitch in the next 2 stitches here, and then slip stitch into the chain space. And then we can chain 3 from there. And we're going to repeat that same stitch pattern that we've been doing for the past few rounds. I think y'all have got this, so I'll just meet back up with y'all at the start of the next round. And remember, do not fasten off yet. We are going to be continuing with color F. For round 17, we're continuing on with the same color, so slip stitch in the next 2 stitches, and then slip stitch in the chain space and chain 3. Now double crochet 1 into that same chain space, chain 1, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. In the next chain space, double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around our project. So next chain space, you'll double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and chain 1, repeat that all the way around your project. We just finished round 17 and I went ahead and slip stitched into the beginning of the round. You should have 84 stitches in your project now, and we are still continuing on with the same color for round 18. So we're going to slip stitch into this next stitch, and then slip stitch into the chain space, chain 3, double crochet 2 into the same chain space, and then chain 1. Next chain space, we're going to double crochet 3, chain 1, and repeat that in every single chain space around our project. So next chain space, double crochet 3, chain 1, and just repeat. Okay, we made it back around our project, so we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of the round and fasten off. You should have a total of 126 stitches. For round 19, we'll insert our hook into any chain space and grab our color H yarn. We haven't used this color yet, so grab your color H yarn and repeat the stitch pattern from the previous row. You know the drill, you've got this, so I'll meet back up with y'all at the start of the next round. Round 20, insert your hook into any chain space, grab your color F yarn, and repeat the previous row. We have finally made it to the final round in our hat. Insert your hook into any chain space, take your color G yarn, and chain 1. This does not count as a stitch. Now we're just going to single crochet in each chain space and stitch until the end of our round. So we're going to single crochet where we put this chain 1 because the chain 1 did not count as a stitch. And then single crochet in the next 3 stitches. Single crochet in the chain space. Single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and you're just going to continue doing that all the way around your project. We've made it all the way back around our project, so to finish off round 21, we're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made at the beginning of the round, fasten off, and we have a bucket hat. And you should have ended with 168 stitches. So now we just have to go in and weave in all of these ends, and you maybe don't have quite so many as me if you decided to carry your colors through, or maybe you're just doing a single color, but I have to go in and weave in a bunch of ends, and then we can come back and do the optional ties. Okay, all of the ends have been woven into my hat, and we're ready to get started on the optional ties. So we'll set the hat aside for now. We're going to grab our color G yarn, make a slip knot, and chain 85. Okay, so we should have 85 chains with our color G yarn. Now we're going to drop our color G yarn and grab our color F yarn, and chain 1. So now we should have 86 chains of our color G yarn. You can go ahead and cut this color G yarn right now if you want, or you can wait till later, but we aren't going to need it again for this tie. So now we're going to be working in the back side of these chains here. There will be a little loop along the back side of all your chains, and that's where we're going to be working. Not through the chain like this, like you would typically do. We'll be working on it in the back here. Alright, so in the second chain from your hook, this can be a little tricky just because we have all of these strands here, but in the second chain from your hook right here on the back, you're going to single crochet. Now that should be secured. It should be a lot easier to work in here. This color F yarn won't be so slippery now. And we're just going to go through and single crochet in that little back loop here on the underside of your chain. We're going to put a single crochet in every single one of those until the end of our chain. Okay, so our tie is basically done. We should have 85 stitches now, and we're just going to chain 1 so that we can fasten off. We'll need to leave, 4-ish inches of yarn so that we can attach our tie to our hat. And if you haven't cut off your color G yarn, you can go ahead and do that too. And here we have this really nice string, basically, with a nice contrasting color on the side. So go ahead and make a second tie exactly the same as the first, and then we can meet back up to attach them both to our hat. Okay, so we should have 2 identical ties right here, and we're just going to put them aside for a second and grab our hat. I have turned my hat inside out because we're going to be attaching the ties to the inside of our hat, and we're going to find round 16. So this was round 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. So we're going to be working in this round here. I'm going to be using some stitch markers just to show y'all where I'm going to place my ties, but you do not need to use stitch markers at all. I just want to give y'all the visual of that. So in round 16, I'm going to mark off this cluster here. And then we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have to turn the hat a little bit here. 9. We're skipping 9 clusters, and then on the 10th, that's where we'll be attaching our next tie. So I'm just going to put a stitch marker there just to show y'all. They're just on opposite sides of our hat, so that's where we'll be attaching our ties. So go ahead and find the end here that has this longer yarn tail, and we're going to insert it into our darning needle. And then we're just going to sew it into this 3 double crochet little section that we have right here. So just kind of sew it in. I'm just putting it through the base of all the stitches here. And then I'm going to put it through our tie here at the top. I might do that one more time just to make sure it's really secure. And then we can just go ahead and tie a little knot. And that should be pretty secure. Now I'm going to attach my other tie quickly in the exact same way, weave in my ends, and then I'll come back to show y'all our finished hat. Okay, our hat is all finished. We have both of our ties attached here on the inside, and I got all of my ends woven in, and it is done. Really quick, easy project, super cute, great for using up scrap yarn, great beginner project, and you can just have a lot of fun with the colors of it and really make the design your own. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Tag me on Instagram. I would love to see if any of y'all make this hat. I love seeing all of y'all's different color combinations that you come up with or little additions that you make. So remember to like this video if you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe. I hope you'll have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!